Today's guest is Yovonne Kenney, a strategic growth leader with more than 15 years of experience across the SFR, BTR, production builder, and multifamily sectors. As SVP for Palisade, she helps brands clarify their value, strengthen partnerships, and turn visibility into measurable growth. She also hosts Inside the Vendor Network, where she spotlights the people and partnerships shaping the future of the industry. And today we're talking about personal branding, one of my favorite topics, visibility, leadership, and why being seen for your expertise is not vanity, but is rather responsibility. Yovonne, thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, thank you for having me, Chrissy. I'm so excited to be on your show and looking forward to getting into some personal branding today. It's one of my favorite topics too.
Yes, and before we hopped on, we were talking about how we got connected, and that's through Sierra, my daughter, and
Yeah.
I brag on her ability for personal branding all the time because I'm like, she learned so well.
She's the epitome of personal brand. I mean, she does it so naturally. I think what we're gonna get into today is, it's not always about logos and colors and fonts or cowgirl hats and swag that Sierra does so well. It's about the genuine intention and trust that's built over time, right? With every interaction you make with somebody, your personal brand has the power to either um, gain more attention, good or bad. It's going to do one or both. But ultimately you're going to either gain trust or lose trust in every interaction. And sometimes we've got to recover trust, and that's okay too, because, we'll talk a little bit about interpretation, something that I work on in my everyday life, and protecting my brand and making sure I'm putting out the brand message and brand voice that I want out there for myself personally, or for Palisade, or for Brand Labs, or for Inside the Vendor Network. A lot of us are wearing multiple hats sometimes too. And so you're switching brands, right? And so, like, how do you tell that message when you're not just made up of any one thing?
Exactly, which is, that's part of the reason why this podcast is called Finally Seen, because I wanted women specifically to be, seen for the various things that we do, because we're more than just moms or just daughters or sisters and bosses and things like that. So I love that you're bringing that up, that there are different hats and different brands. And I love too that you pointed out that it's not just your logo. I can't tell you how many times people think, well, I've got my logo, my branding's done. I'm like, you just got started.
Yeah. Let's get that logo out there.
Or they'll get the logo first before designing anything else. And sometimes I'm like, well, does that actually match the brand's essence?
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially when it comes to like colors, even. And a lot of people I know, they think that they don't need a personal brand because they work in a company.
Right.
And I have
Oh,
been pushing back on that for over a decade now, like saying
yes.
even janitors need a brand of some sort. And, I
100%.
bought our URLs, like Sierra.com,
Yeah.
SierraBernal.com. I bought that 17 something years ago because I
Yes.
knew how important personal brands were going to be. And, look, now she's using it as an adult, even though I bought it when she was like 9.
Right.
So, yeah. What are your thoughts on employees and personal brands?
So, especially right now in the SFR BTR world, we're seeing a lot of layoffs, right? And we're seeing a lot of people, very qualified, very experienced people who, in a sense, got this industry to where it is today due to their hard work and their efforts. And they looked up one day and their employer came in and said, "Hey, we're downsizing. We appreciate all the work you've done for us here. Unfortunately, this is a hard decision for us, but we've got to go our separate ways." And I know that the audience, it's like right now, it's like 2 out of 5 in
Oh,
this
wow.
industry who are potentially faced with losing their job, their what I call job, and in that can be really hard if your identity is associated with that, right? So let's kind of rewind a little over a year ago. My identity was very much aligned with Preferred Floor and Tile Company. As a matter of fact, after I exited the company, I had one of the largest owner operators say to me, "But you are Preferred Floor and Tile." And
Wow.
I felt good about that for about 2 seconds, but when I thought about that, I thought, "Wow, how did I fail?" Because that company and that brand was built by a group of amazing my team, right? And what they meant was I was the face of that brand. They knew that my team, behind the scenes was executing. My field people were the face of it really every day with the field supervisors who, were overcoming challenges in the field, problem solving, over communicating, all the buzzwords that work in our industry. But at the end of the day, let's just rewind to last year, March 31st, I lost my job and never, ever thought that I would leave Preferred Floor and Tile Company. I was what we called a lifer. I had burnt the ships. I was on the shores of Normandy and I burnt the ships. There was no going back for me. And so what I realized very quickly was I had done my job and the company wasn't my brand. It had it had outgrown me, which was great. And I had done a great job of really getting them where they needed to be so they could get to the next level. And so sometimes there's a success story like that. But then sometimes it's just purely layoff or AI right now is coming in and replacing jobs. And so I think there are more people today who are going to look up and that following week after you lose your job, you say, now what? I actually pulled out onto the street in my car that day and I looked up and I said, now what? And then, boy, did he have a plan for me. And thank goodness. So one of the first things I did is I reached out to some of my closest friends, and one of them is Kelsey Corey with a executive search firm, and she gave me some of the best advice. At first, again, this was a big growing moment. 30 days from March 31st to about April 31st. I learned a lot in that moment. Kelsey Corey taught me about my brand was she said, I said, so tell me about your program. What do you do? How do you help people, executives find a new role? What kind of timeline do you think that looks like? Asked all the questions, right? And she said, oh, you don't need me. And I said, what do you mean? And she said, Yvonne, you've got an amazing brand already. Just keep doing you. And I was like, you're not gonna sell me a package? And he said, well, think about it. Here's the package. Take some time. I want you to take some time. You're never gonna get this time again to really think about what do you want your next steps to be? And so I sat back and I thought about it. And I had owned and operated my own consulting agency, which actually led me to working for Preferred Floor and Tile. People don't know this. I was a consultant for David Stovall, who's the owner. I had worked with him for a few years, doing lead generation for him, doing some brand development, built out a website, was doing some blog posting back then when no one knew what it was, creating some thought leadership stuff. And I had called him one day and said, hey, I'm leaving the company that I work for. I'm going out full time on my own because there's some things that the company I work for doesn't do that I want to do it for my clients and what I really enjoy doing. And he's like, oh, no, you got to come over here and build this flooring company. He was getting ready to start his other flooring company known as Service Pros Installations Group today, where they do the labor installation for Lowe's Home Improvement and some other large retailers. And I said, what? what do you mean? And I was confused. And he said, yeah, come start this Carolina Carpet One, and you can run sales and operations and help us scale that thing in case this thing that I'm building doesn't work out. And so basically, he enticed me with being the backup plan. And so I was like, sure, I'm good at being the backup plan, I guess, but I don't know anything about flooring. And he was like, you don't need to know anything about flooring. We'll teach you flooring. And what do you know, 13 years, 14 years later, I know a lot about flooring. I'm an expert in flooring. But what I did know is I knew marketing and branding. I didn't need to know flooring. He was absolutely 100% right. I needed to develop a brand, help us develop a brand, and then get that brand out in front of the right people at the right time and consistently keep driving that message. And so we had to start at the beginning, right? And the beginning is, what is the right time? What is the right message?
Who are the
Who
right
is our customer? Who are we going to be? What is our value proposition? It's really easy to say, okay, we do flooring. All right. Launch a Google campaign, do some pay per click, carpet store near me, get a carpet quote, all the different carpet search terms. That's not enough. And that's not enough for us personally either. And how would someone search you? Right? Um, I used to sit around as a business development professional and I used to think, all I need to do today is talk to 3 to 5 business owners who need my product and I can add value. And I used to think about there are 3 to 5 business owners right now sitting around saying, I need X. And my job is simply just to find them. And that's where it really becomes an ethical dilemma for me. If you really believe in what you deliver, you really believe in the value that you offer, then it's an ethical obligation to provide it, right? It's no longer about selling product. It's no longer about promoting yourself. But if your God given talents have been given to you to bestow onto others and go out in the world and do his work, then by golly, you should go do it. And if you don't, it's not good. Like you're living, for me, it's faith-based. For me, it's ethical. If I really truly believe this much about what I have to offer, then boy, I need to get that out in front of all of those who need it. So
100%. I was just having a conversation on LinkedIn this morning about that very topic. She was talking about somebody said that self-publishing is selfish. And I was like, actually, it's the opposite. If that's the way you have to get your story out or you choose to get your story out,
yeah,
that's great, because not sharing your story and not, doing, like what you're saying with your talent, that's selfish, because there's somebody right now who really wants what you have to offer. And there might be 5 other people who offered them something similar, but they're waiting for just your right amount of magic and, what the special sauce that only each of us can individually bring. So I love that you
and
point that
bring
out.
out of others. Right.
Yes.
So my friends tell me it's my weirdo magnet. I attract
Ah,
weirdo. So
that's why you,
welcome,
Sarah.
Chrissy. Welcome to the club. But I always say to my friends, I'm like, well, then what's that say about you? Right. Or my fiance, I'm like, well, you're my number one weirdo then. But I think that everything again, I don't make any I don't hide my faith. I'm a big believer. And through leadership, right? Growth is real. And one of the things that make growth really, really hard is when you are in a world where you think you're the only one going through it. When
Yes.
others demonstrate vulnerability and sharing that they go through this too. I was actually having a conversation with one of my mentors the other day, and I'll drop her name. It's Reshma Block, and she's the former CTO at Tricon Residential. And I look up to her. I mean, she's C-suite all the way, and she is a rock star, and she's solid. But she works for me, right? I have a business coach, but when she gives me feedback, I'm able to receive it. I'm very aware of the fact that I don't really receive feedback very well. I haven't, not that I'm opposed to it. I love feedback. I'm a doer and and I'm a fixer.
Mhm.
So when people give me feedback, I'm also a verbal processor. It's hard for me to just receive it and sit with it. And sharing that, there's someone else in the audience right now who's like, oh my gosh, that's me. And so when you surround yourself by people like my mentors, seek out mentorship. I met her through WMN with the NRHC, um, uh, uh, something that I actually got Sierra involved in with at Preferred. All the women at Preferred are involved in WMN today. Is because it's really important to surround yourself by other women who have already gone through it. And then what you also start to realize is the journey is you go through it and then sometimes you go through it again, right? The journey is not like this. The journey is like this and then like this and then maybe up. And there's no right path or journey for anybody. But when I was having a conversation and we were talking about, what were we talking about? She was explaining to me how she had had a meeting with someone and then there was absolutely no follow-up from that person after that meeting. And it was really funny because as she said this, I didn't share this with her at the time, but fast forward, she was giving me some feedback and coaching about something and it came back up. And I explained to her that in the moment that she had shared with me that someone actually hadn't followed up with her, the thought went through my mind, like, wow, that even happens to her too. And I'm 50 years old and I've been in sales. I know people don't follow up, right? But there's a sense of knowing that no matter what level you get at, the trials and the tribulations are still there. And they might look a little different. And you take your experience and your brand and your knowledge and all the things into those things, and you might just do them differently this time. And I think it's important for everyone to know that, right? And your brand is a result of how you go through those things and how you come out on the other side. And you start to determine not who you're not going to be, but who you're going to be. Right?
Yeah.
And there's power in focusing on what I'm going to be. And it's really hard when you're going through those moments of growth, be like, okay, I don't want to be that. I don't want to be this. I don't want to be loud and noisy. I don't want to be that person on LinkedIn who's always putting themselves out there. So to your point, that person who said to you, well, that's kind of self-promoting or that's kind of selfish behavior. That actually is something that comes up a lot when I talk to clients about the value of putting out video content or being a guest on a podcast or potentially hosting some thought leadership podcast of their own within their own business. It feels self-promoting. And down here in the South, humility is a really big, big thing, right? Especially for women. It's a different lane. It looks a little bit different than up north. Everyone's loud, we're boisterous, we tell it how it is. Come down here into the South, and this New Yorker's like really loud and obnoxious, right? So you got to kind of figure out who your audience is and act accordingly. But the point is a lot of people still think that the people out there pushing themselves on the internet maybe are just noisy.
Yeah, or performative. That because I do see that a lot. So I've been very intentional about, I struggle with perfection, and so I have to. I've worked on it really hard, like especially with this podcast. Not every episode is perfect. None of them is actually
None
perfect.
of them are.
So it's okay. I just focus on the message and allowing it to land to whomever it's supposed to land to. And if somebody doesn't like it because they didn't like maybe the outfit I was wearing or something, then that says a lot about them and not about my outfit choice. And so,
Yes.
but,
So
but
when you first started your podcast, it's still hard for me to watch some of my. It's actually really hard for me to watch episodes because, see, like, look, I just itched my lip, and
oh,
I
I'm
tend to like dig in my ear too. I don't know why, but I itch my ear. Apparently, my ears are itchy. Um, this is hard. Most people don't know how when you put yourself out there, you open yourself up for all of it, for them to judge your outfit, my background, whatever it may be, right? Like you start to think through those things and you drive. I'm a bit of a perfectionist as well. I'm a bit neurotic when it comes to a couple things that, especially branding, brand consistency. Um, if a letter is supposed to be capitalized, make sure it's capitalized every time. If there's a little TM, make sure that little TM is there. If there's a space between this, like that does matter. And you do want someone managing your brand if you're not managing it yourself that understands that. But let's talk about that a little bit. I know that you asked me some questions, or you sent me over a little bit of some of the questions you were going to ask, and I love one of the questions is how do you really choose your brand? How do you start to develop a brand? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that a little bit as well. I want to talk about that with you because I love your brand. I love your daughter's brand. It's a very similar brand, and it builds trust quickly. Um, you know, and I'm going beyond the surface of your beautiful red hair, right? I'm going to the intention behind what you're trying to accomplish. So in
that.
this podcast, when you started this podcast, you said, "Hey, I really wanted this to be right. I really wanted to put out good content." What are some of the first steps, do you think really held you back from maybe slowed you from getting it done? Because I think that's where the audience really, I think a lot of people don't know where to start. And that's where then, I don't know, sometimes when I don't know where to start, I'll pick holes. I'm like, I don't really want to do that anyway because I can't figure it out.
Well, I've said it often that I don't actually like being on camera. And even though, the girls, their story went viral when they were 10. And so we were on television worldwide all the time. And you would think that I'm comfortable on camera, but I'm not. I just know how important it is to actually be out there. And, I had a podcast 10 years ago called Everything Empowering Women. That one was live. So there was no way that was going to be perfect, but there was a producer and all that. And I did that one, I think, for about a year. And then
Dang, that's
I,
a lot of good experience.
yeah, it was good. It was audio only at the time because it was podcasting back then. But, and I kind of hid behind the girl's story and I hid behind all our clients. And even though I was sitting back here building everyone else's brands for the last 15 plus years, I was keeping mine kind of down because I was afraid of that visibility. And then I was in the shower. This was a little over a year ago. And I felt God go, yeah, why don't you have a podcast? And I was like, I don't know. And he's like, I gave you a message. And I was like, oh crap. Okay. And
It's
so
true.
yeah. So that was, I think in like May. And I told the team July 1st, we're going to launch a podcast. And so I didn't give myself enough time to overthink it. And, we manage podcasts for other people. So we already had a process down. So the team was able to pretty easily do that. And it was really easy for me to think of the first few people I wanted to invite as guests. And It's evolved a bit because we started with someplace and we just kind of, how does it land? So, this is something I tell perfectionists is just make it exist first, then iterate. And, you said intentional earlier. That's a huge one. It's the intentionality behind things. And that's what's really going to outshine. So even though, let's say somebody doesn't like my shirt today, really the intention of us sharing this message, that's going to be the more powerful thing than the color of my shirt.
100%. And I think that's so important because it is just get started. And I'm 30, I don't know, maybe 30, somewhere over the number 30. It's a weekly podcast inside the vendor network. It's a weekly podcast, and the goal is to lift up and highlight other vendors, and essentially build a expo floor digitally so that if owner operators want to learn about preferred floor and tile, or they want to learn about City Scout, we'll give City Scout a plug. um, you know, so how do they learn about these organizations if, number one, they can't go to the conferences, they can't afford it, or they don't have the time to step away from their business because they're owner operators, right? So they may just not be able to go, let alone the money that it costs to go to all these conferences. So how can they get the information from, and then how can the vendors get in front of these potential clients to add value? And that wasn't because I want to help a bunch of people sell a bunch of products. It's because I actually care about the industry and solving real problems within the industry. That's what I loved. That's what my team and I really loved doing, was when, it wasn't about flooring. Anyone can get flooring anywhere, but how they buy flooring and from who they buy flooring, and what does the experience in the customer journey feel like of when they buy flooring from us as opposed to somebody else, was more of the brand that we were creating. And so we did that very, very well here in Charlotte, North Carolina, and then we duplicated. And duplication sounds really easy because it's like copy paste, but oh no, it's really hard to duplicate. It's harder to duplicate than just to expand, because I can just pop up another flooring company in another city, but actually duplicating an experience is tremendously hard, because here's the hook: the people. Because my same people in Charlotte weren't the same people in Atlanta, and they weren't the same people in Tampa and Dallas and Nashville. So now that goes all the way back to your brand.
Yep.
Because your brand needs to attract like-minded employees within your organization. And
Yeah.
your brand has to communicate a culture within your organization. So it becomes way bigger than, oh, here's the product we sell: carpet fuzzy side up, right? You can get carpet anywhere, but you can't buy carpet from Sierra Bernal anywhere. You could buy carpet from Sierra Bernal at Preferred Floor and Tile. So when you look at the Sierras, and you look at the Phillips, and you look at the Kyras, and you look at the people who are on my business development team, Brian Watkins, there's a very common thread to all of them. There's a consistency in their brand. And we hired for that, not because we were like looking for, certain people. What happens is you attract them. And that's where that inbound attraction comes from, right? And so if you focus on your purpose first, like you did, and you say, hey, this is the result. Podcasting is storytelling. So you're going to tell a story over a period of an episode. And then collectively, all of your episodes are going to tell a story, bigger picture. So you start out, like you said, one episode at a time. And you learn from that, just like you do in anything else. And failure is the win, because through picking at my ear and picking at my nose on podcast, I'm like, okay, stop it. Or my dad's like, you know what? I think you need to wear a collared shirt because, I don't like when you don't wear a collared shirt. You need to wear a collared shirt. And then you get that feedback. And you're like, you know what? Here I am. I'm wearing a collared shirt.
That's
It does demonstrate my brand. Get feedback from the people who know your brand, know your heart, know who you truly are as well, because they'll call you out and not allow you to, what I always say, believe your own bullshit, because you need those people in your life. So I think that building trust happens over time. So when I left Preferred, I wasn't sure what I was going to do. And I was in the midst of sourcing shower systems for a handful of the owner operators in the space trying to solve showers. And so I had gone out and met with a bunch of shower manufacturers and was positioning Preferred to really introduce this product into the space. And one of the manufacturers ended up was ACP, Acoustic Ceiling Products, who owns the Palisade brand. Um, I had taken a meeting, Sarah and I had actually taken a meeting with them at KBIS. And so after my exit from Preferred, I went and met with them. And the CEO said, well, why don't you come head up this division for SFR BTR? And you know what? How brilliant his part, because the investment of building my brand, he didn't make. But he
yeah.
absolutely, and Palisade is absolutely on the upside of taking a brand that absolutely was not known at all 1 year ago in the SFR BTR space. And I feel very confident that what my start date was in April. So we're April, May, June, July. We're 12, 30, 15 months later. I don't take public math either. I'm in marketing. That 15 months later, most people know who Palisade are if you're in the SFR BTR space. Do you know how long that took us at Preferred? A lot longer.
Wow. Well,
And
now you're a lot more experienced in building a brand as well. So you're able to get that going faster. And I love that you pointed out too, that at the very beginning that you didn't need to know about flooring because you knew
yeah,
about people and you knew about branding. And I say that all the time. When it boils down to it, you're dealing with people. And so my mentor, Brian Kramer, came up with the H2H movement a long time ago. So there's no B2B, no B2C, it's H2H. And, that's how your brand is
does that
communicating with
stand for homie to homie?
right? Human to human. That's funny. I should tell.
Yeah.
So, so yeah, your personal brand is going to communicate with another human, whether it's selling to them or being hired by them or talking to them on a podcast, all of those, you're still dealing with humans. And so the fact that you knew humans allowed you to do that.
Well, and you're selling within your business. I mean, we were a 20-year startup. It's essentially what we were, because I mean, David had built a very successful flooring company on his own. He was the installer. He and his wife were on their hands and knees installing floors.
Wow.
I mean, that's how the business started. And how many times, Chrissy, do you see that? You see that these small, medium mom and pops have so much heart. They love what they do. They're serial entrepreneurs. They have vision. They just don't know how to do it, right? And you know what entrepreneurs are really good at? And especially trade labor. I love working within trade labor. I love working with plumbers, electricians, HVAC companies, roofing companies. I love labor-based companies, especially in the trades, working with them, because you know what they get? And oh, my phone's right here. They get that this is their most valuable resource. They know a guy. They
Yeah.
are a guy. They are
Yeah.
a guy or a girl for someone. They built an entire business on, hey, I got a guy for that. Call my buddy who does flooring. Call my buddy who does this. Who doesn't want to do business with a buddy? Because there's a sense of trust immediately earned. There's a sense of, I'm probably going to get a better or at least a fair price. I'm going to not getting taken advantage of. Call my buddy, right? And so that's who you and I are to our clients, is we're their buddies in the business that they can trust with their brand. Because a lot of times, most small, medium business owner entrepreneurs, they have a vision. They just don't know how to get it there. They don't know how to develop a brand, but they know the deliverable they want to deliver. And we can help them bring that to fruition. And that's basically what I did with Palisade Shower Systems, and I'm doing now, leading the SFR BTR channel, is just introducing these showers. And never once do we talk about how beautiful they are, aesthetically pleasing. We talk about the fact that they decrease the amount of time it takes to install. It improves the customer experience if it's an occupied as opposed to tile, because tile is a horrible nightmare for someone who is renting a home. Their shower leaks, and now their house is damaged. If it's on the second floor, water usually goes down to the first floor, so you have damage down there. Sometimes they can't even live in the unit while they're fixing it. They're displaced. Their life is completely interrupted. Now one of their entire bathrooms isn't able to be used. You really start to think about the experience of what a resident goes through and how our shower systems can take that timeline of a resident going through that from 2 weeks down to 2 days. That's a big deal to an owner operator who cares about resident experience. So we don't talk about our showers in reference to like, yeah, they're aesthetically pleasing, they're cost comparably to fiberglass. They're zero maintenance is what they are. They're going to drive NOI. We talk about the value proposition. What problems does it solve for the owner operator? And oh, by the way, they're beautiful too. And people are going to like your bathroom over the other one they looked at down the street. So they're going to lease your home over someone else's home. How do you tell that story?
I love that you're focusing on what the end user really wants. And AI has misguided people on this multiple times. I was talking
100%.
with someone recently, and they kept sending me titles for things that they were going to be selling or whatever. And I was like, no, this keeps telling
what it do.
Yeah, it's like the end result. Like keep going with the dig deeper. What's the end result? And I keep telling them, customers, they don't necessarily know that they need what you're selling, but they know about the problem they have. And so it's like, you got to keep focusing on that. And so if your brand is really communicating the transformation someone's going to experience by being with you, that's really the key. And so, yeah, logos are great and all, but it's the transformation that the person experiences or the company experiences or whatever. That's what really matters when you're talking about.
And then it's the people that deliver that for that company. So, we started here down this path around culture within an organization. Culture is mindset. It's not necessarily, it's also like, hey, I like my boss or don't like my boss. But I've worked for many bosses I didn't like, but I love the culture in which I lived, because in hindsight, I didn't like them because they were being honest with me and they were truthful, and I wasn't ready to grow. Or I didn't like, it wasn't I didn't like them, it's I didn't like what they said at the time, but it's because I probably had something to learn in that moment and I wasn't open to learning it. Now that I'm a little older and wiser, I can reflect back on that. But give yourself grace as an entrepreneur. You don't have to have this figured out. There's so many experts. And what's happening right now is I think everyone feels like, oh, I'm missing the boat, right? With AI and the overwhelming amount of information that's coming at us. Like, I feel like you could go back, let's say a decade ago when, let's face it, Google came out in 2000. That's not that long ago. And people ran, a lot of print money moved from the yellow pages print into online digital search. And a lot of that money moved. I followed that money into search. I worked managing some of the largest pay-per-click campaigns back in the day. I helped a company IPO and go public.
Oh, wow.
who focused on PPC. We were talking, I was convincing small to medium business owners that they needed a website, right? That's how early on we were talking about digital transformation. And
Yeah,
everyone felt like, oh my gosh, I'm missing the boat. You have your early adapters and you have your laggers. Your laggers, I was trying to convince them, hey, you need to invest, stop spending $30,000 a month on a double truck in the yellow pages and move it into a digital presence and build a website. How much is a website going to cost? Well, back then, I don't know, 5, 10K, very easily for a nice website because you didn't have all these tools to build websites. You didn't have Wix. You couldn't just pop up a website overnight. Everyone was using WordPress and, trying to learn how to use it.
I
It was
used
fun.
Page. I built local church's first website back in 2001, I believe, on Front Page.
Right. Well, that's the thing. And everyone had full-fledged websites. Nowadays, we run off of landing pages and conversion pages, but you still need a website. And to your point, SierraBernal.com is the most valuable.com that woman will own in her lifetime. What most people, don't own their own domain. So if you're in the audience right now and you're listening, go buy your domain, right?
Right.
As a matter of fact, I own other people's domains because I'm hoping to sell it to them one day because they were asleep at the wheel. But
Yep.
there's actually a strategy. If you look at like young sports athletes who are up and coming, their domain name is going to be really important to them one day. I actually on another day I got a really good story around that one. But own your own domain. Go grab that. That's step one. That's easy. That's going to cost you maybe $20, $30 a year. Go to GoDaddy.com or whatever, which one you want to buy. Go buy your domain name. Start there. That's step one. Step two, really reach out to either Chrissy or myself or somebody in the industry and start putting down, what is your brand?
Yeah. What do you stand
Um,
for?
what do
What are
you stand for?
topics that you cover? What are your core pillars? And that's a question a lot of people get. And I say, find the top things that people keep asking you about. What do people come to you for answers on or advice on? That's usually your brand. Like I didn't force books into my brand. That came naturally to me. My career organically grew because it was magnetic. I didn't have to force anything. And so yeah, you're right. Just start and please go get your domain however you can. And then what's the second thing you think someone should do?
I think that
Or the next
own
thing?
it. Own your
Mm,
brand. Own that thing, right? Be messy. Mess up. Um, you don't have to be perfect, right? So the second thing I would say is be authentic and true to yourself, but maybe give yourself some time to identify what are my God-given talents. I will say, if I look back over the 13 years at Preferred Floor and Tile, I always jokingly say I was faking it as an operator. And I was, because it was hard. I am not naturally I'm not an operations person. I was very good at it. I got a company sub 1 million to 8-figure business and expanded their digital footprint. But I will tell you, we weren't as profitable as we could have been had I actually known what I was doing, right? As an operator. But what I was very, very successful at was building a brand. That is my natural talent. That was so easy for me. It happened organically, just like you said. So take a minute and ask yourself, yeah, what are the things that come really natural to me? And you may be able to find those in the things that you enjoy the most, the things that aren't so hard. You don't run into as much friction. I ran
yeah.
into a lot of friction being an operator because I was learning and doing and learning and doing and learning and doing and learning and doing. And I hadn't become. And so my team had to stomach my learning. Our customers had to stomach my learning. And then give yourself grace to learn. It's okay. Surround yourself by people who understand we're all learning. Um, so one of the things we're working on at Brand Labs is developing a little series. We're going to do a little bit of a free course on taking some steps to identify what your God-given talents are. I'm going to do another horrible plug, if you don't mind. Hang on. It's not for me. I'm never plugging myself really because I don't believe in it. But this book right here, I'm gonna thank you for having me on your show. I'm gonna send you a copy of this book. This book was written by Jessica White. She is in the design department for Mohawk Industries. So she helps determine trends, what trends in flooring there should be. She rose up the ranks into top leadership at Mohawk Industries, and is really living aligned now on the design side versus the sales and business development side, because that really is where her heart had her. But
Well,
the
look at
red thread,
that's her personal brand that is blending in with her the company she works with
her
or at.
career,
It's a
and
beautiful.
now she's sharing it.
Yeah.
And now she shares a journey in this book of her battle, her not even a battle with herself more than anything. And it's called Woven with Purpose on Purpose, an invitation to stop blending in and step into your God-given purpose. And this book is really easy read. I'm not a big reader. I'm more of an audio, but I went through this thing in like 2 days. And I'm not a reader. I'm not a book reader like this because I have ADHD. This book helped me just recently reaffirm what are my God-given talents? What comes to me naturally? What did God gift me with that can help, that I'm to go out and give? Right. So that's my philosophy is give, go out into the world, keep giving. And what do you know? It always comes back. I don't do it with the intention of coming back, but I do have to pay my bills. Right. So, and I do like nice things and I love vacations. But I wake up every day with purpose. I'm getting ready to go on vacation, but my Bible usually sits right under here. It's packed in my backpack. Carve out some intentional time and if you're not faith-based, that's okay. Just meditate on it, think on it, carve out some time. That second thing, as I've been verbally processing here, carve out intentional time for you.
Yeah.
To really think about it.
Well, and if
not in between all this stuff.
and that's like my team knows that when we're having strategy sessions or something, sometimes I will stare off and I will be silent. And they know to just let me stay silent. Don't try to fill the time because something's coming to me and I just need it to be silent. And so much comes when we're just still and we allow it to come to us instead of trying to force it.
Mm-hmm.
My other suggestion is if someone is saying, okay, I've done that, but I'm struggling to figure it out still, then have a meeting with someone like you or me, because we'll be able to pick it up, because we'll be able to see, does your face light up when you talk about this? Did you get tense when you said that? And we can pick up on those clues to help you figure out what truly is, what you're supposed to lean in on.
Yeah. I had lunch with someone 2 days ago. And he said, so what is all this stuff you got going on? He was on one of my panels. I met him in Miami. He was on my panel and he said, I had the most fun on your panel. He said, he's like, I really had never had fun on a panel like that before. He's like, and then I show up out here to this cabana activation you're having. And he's like, this girl's up to something. What is she doing? He's like, but she sells showers. And so, ironically, he lives in Charlotte, or he has a house in Charlotte as well. So he happened to be here and he reached out and he said, hey, want to go to lunch? And he's launching his consulting business. And he was like, I think our paths have crossed because of just all the things. And I was like, it just happens organically. Here you are, you're starting your consulting business. You had a brand working for the top institutionals. You're now having to kind of like feel like you have to rebrand yourself, but it's not a rebrand. It's an extension of your brand. It's a new page in your journey. You just have to have a place. That third thing, you have to have a hub where your story can be told. And I mean, the easiest way to do that is having a website.
Yeah.
And, there's a lot of people out there like, oh, death of the website. No, I think rebirth of the website. The website is where it tells the whole ecosystem. Social media, different platforms can be used to tell parts of the story because different audiences lean to different social. But thought leadership, vlogging, blogging, putting out shorts, self-promoting content,
Podcast.
podcast, all the thing, writing a book. I mean, you can self-publish today very easily. Now she got a publisher because that book is that good. But you can self-publish. One of the first things I ever did was wrote a book. It was the first internet series I ever did. It was stop doing it the hard way and start building serious sales funnels. Start
Nice.
building real funnels. And this was back when landing pages were coming out and like how to really build a funnel, how to make, automation, when all this stuff was new. Remarketing and retargeting display ads. Like people were like, oh my gosh, ads are following people around. Now everyone knows that happens. But before everyone knew that was happening, that was happening. So I wrote a book, Stop Doing It the Hard Way. I self-published. I gave it away for free. It was a free download. I used it as a lead magnet and a download. I ended up picking up 4 or 5 clients off of that. From across the country that were not in my inner circle. That's
Nice.
the other thing I'd love to say today is stop thinking within your current circle. There's a way bigger circle out there of customers that need you that are not within your space that you live today.
Yeah.
And know that circle is probably bigger than your existing client base.
Oh, yeah.
So
100%.
how are you going to get in front of them?
That's why, that's one of the things that we say we solve is we bridge that authority visibility gap. You've got the authority in your little circle, but you're just kind of stuck there. And it's like,
it's way bigger.
Yeah.
So much bigger.
That's awesome, Yvonne. Well, what's the best way for people to reach out to you? Because you've got all the different brands that you're working on.
Sure. To connect with me, of course, go over to LinkedIn. I read all my own messages, private DM me. Follow Inside the Vendor Network on LinkedIn, of course. That's how you can track some of the content we're putting out. But Inside the Vendor Network is a directory website that we'll be launching. And it's essentially going to be a conference room floor where each vendor will have a digital booth within the website. So, yeah, kind of like an old school directory. Believe it or not, no directory for our industry exists. And it kind of shocked me coming from my Yellow Book, Yellow Pages days. I was like, how do we not have a directory? We have associations that have a bunch of listings of vendors, but it's not a good glimpse of all the vendors. Like you only see the vendors that belong to those associations.
Yeah.
I want a bigger, broader thing. I want owner operators to be able to choose who they learn about, who they do business with. And I think having a traditional directory powered by a multimedia booth, digital media booth
That's really cool.
within the platform is going to be super cool. So
That's cool. Well, thank you for joining me today. And I enjoyed our conversation. And I know that there were plenty of nuggets in there for people. So now, no excuses if you listen to this episode. Drop it in the comments. We want to know, did you go buy your domain name?
Go buy your domain name. Let us know. Let us know what it is. Come up with something fun.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chrissy. You'll have to come on Inside the Vendor Network next. We're going to dig in with you next. I want to learn more about you.
I would love to, for sure.
Absolutely.